Hello and welcome to Retech, and today we're going to talk about, you might have guessed, the Dragon 32. Now this is part of a series of videos I'm going to do about machines that are 40 years old, and the Dragon 32 came out in 1982, so it's on the verge of being 40 years old this year. And it's quite an oddball machine really when you think about it, because a lot of people think it was a clone of the TRS80 Color Computer, and in kind of many respects it kind of was, but it really was designed on the playbook for the processor. Motorola brought out a specification for a simple or a sample computer to kind of feature its Motorola CPU at the time, and this is really what both machines are based around. So the Dragon 32 and the TRS80 Color Computer are based around the specifications laid down by Motorola in the first place, so they're going to be very, very similar. Now, to say that they're a clone might be kind of pushing it a little bit, but because of the similar design, they are almost identical in operation, and they are very oddball machines really when you think about it. So let's dig into the Dragon 32 and what made it so special, because the Dragon 32 had a lot of competitors at the time. It was a very kind of oddball machine in a way, because it was up against the likes of the BBC Micro and the ZX81, the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, the Auric One, and so on. And at the end of the day, it kind of didn't really fit. It was a middle ground machine, and that's what I used to see it as when the machine was launched, because we had the ZX Spectrum, which was kind of taking up the vast majority of sales in the UK of the enthusiast, the hobbyist, the gamer. And because of its very low price, the Sinclair Spectrum really did hit the mark, and it got off to an amazing start. And now the BBC Micro was over twice the price of the high-end 48K ZX Spectrum, and that was a 32K, well spec'd up, very well built machine, and it was kind of picking up where the ZX Spectrum couldn't in the more professional and educational markets. Now, along come the Dragon 32 with its very oddball Motorola processor. You see, most machines at the time were running on the 6502 or Z80, and because of this, the Motorola processor was seen as a bit of an oddball to program, a little bit of an oddball when you compare it to other machines that were out there. And it was a bit of a weird one really, because, you know, really the producers of the Dragon 32 should have linked up with Tandy or Radio Shack and basically linked up and produced very similar software for both machines, rather than trying to pitch them as individual machines, because in the UK we had Tandy outlets selling the Tandy TRS80, and in America it was the Radio Shack outlets that were basically selling the Tandy TRS80. Now, because of their similarities, they could have basically done a tie-up and both machines would have been very, very popular, but as it was, they kind of had a bit of a niche market in the UK. The TRS80 wasn't a huge seller in the UK, and initially the Dragon 32 struggled. Then it struggled really because of the competition. Now, the Dragon 32 wasn't a bad machine. It was well built. It had a very well designed case. It had an amazing keyboard. I mean, the keyboard on this was much better than the Coco, much better than the ZX Spectrum, much better than nearly all of the computers that were out there. It was a proper switched tactile keyboard. None of that membrane nonsense that they put in the later machines, and especially in the 16-bit machines, to bring the cost down. Now, it was along the lines of the BBC. The BBC had a very good and classy keyboard, and the Dragon 32 wasn't far behind. Now, Dragon Data built their machines in Wales, hence the kind of dragon motif, because it's been long associated with Wales and the Welsh. Now, the machine itself, as I said, was very well built. It was very expensive to produce, but because of the kind of cost-cutting nature of Clive Sinclair and other microcomputers out there, they couldn't really push this as a high-end machine with a high-end price, mainly because the BBC Micro had kind of cleared that up. And to be honest, technically the BBC Micro was streets ahead of most machines, including the Dragon 32, but because of its build quality, they had to kind of pitch it as a middle ground machine. So at about £199 is what these machines came out as, which was a fair bit above the 48K ZX Spectrum, and a little bit above where the Auric 1 was suddenly pitched at when it was launched. So again, it was a pricey machine, but you did get a quality case, keyboard, and quality internals, which we'll cover later. But these are my Dragon machines. I've got 5 in total. These two are really good examples of how it kind of developed. You had the original kind of cardboardy case with red and white dragons all over it, and then it kind of morphed into the Dragon 32, the family computer to fire your imagination pack, which was here. But essentially there was no different inside of them. There was literally the Dragon computer, the cassette lead, the power supply, and that was really about it in both these packages. They just kind of jazzed them up a little bit. Now, I quite like the Dragon 32. It was one of the machines that I thought should have done really well when it first came out. It was one of these machines that I thought, you know what, I would really like to own one of those, simply because of the way it looked and the keyboard on it. But one thing that really started to put me off in a way was its color palette. Now, to say that the color palette on these machines was garish was probably an understatement, and also because of its relatively slow processor running at around about 0.8 megahertz, it was also seen as a very underpowered machine, even though the 0.8 megahertz Motorola processor that was in these machines was the equivalent to a 4 megahertz Z80. This machine should never really have been kind of pitched towards the games market, because it was not really a games machine. It had kind of some oddball joystick interface which wasn't compatible with the standard Atari 9 pins. It was very well built. It looked like an industrial machine. It looked very, very officey industrial workplace, which goes kind of against the grain when you consider it what a ZX Spectrum looked like, or an Auric 1 looked like, or even an Auric Atmos a little later. And the reason I say it wasn't a games machine is because the resolution modes, although very similar in resolution to a ZX Spectrum, were limited by its kind of greenish color palette. Everything on this machine is virtually green. There's no true black. It's actually very dark green, you know, which gives you an idea of what really this machine should have been aimed at. So we're going to have a quick overview of the Dragon 32, and we're going to see exactly what it was like in the day. Okay, so we've got 2 Dragon 32s here. We've got the earlier one, Dragon Data Swansea, Great Britain tag on the bottom, in its kind of very plain box. Okay, then we got the later one, which is the Dragon 32 Family Computer System, and these are the machines that I kind of consider in very good condition. The other two you saw on the front were not so good, they were a little faded. I need to do some work on them, but these two are very good. This one, including the box, is almost immaculate. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at the machines, and we'll go through exactly what they were all about. Right, okay, so we've taken the sleeve off of this one. If we open the box up, we will see there is a Dragon 32, and basically what you get in the box is the Dragon computer, the power supply, and your cassette lead. And this is basically it, and it doesn't matter which box you have. Again, as I said, they're very nice keyboards. Now this, if you kind of woke up on Christmas morning in sort of 1982 and you got this as a Christmas present, I don't think you would be very upset by it. I think you'd be quite happy when you consider what a ZX Spectrum looks like. And this is the difference in appearance and quality that I was trying to get across. This is so much more industrial, so much more professional than that. And you know, you've got a third extra on the cost, but there's a third more that goes into these models, okay? And a lot of people really didn't quite appreciate that, I don't think, at the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one away, and we'll open up the second box. Okay, so we've got this second box here. It's a little bit well worn, as you would say, and so we're going to take it out of its box without destroying what is left of something that you can't really get hold of very often anymore, which is the boxes themselves. There we go. And again, here we go, we have the Dragon 32. Now this is the closest one I've got to the proper colour on the machine. Okay, it hasn't, the other one was nice, but this one's kind of barely faded. Okay, and obviously you don't get that cassette with it, but in the box, you know, there's a chess game which comes with this pack. Okay, so because on the original box, the family computer box, your chess game came with it. Okay, and then you have your power supply here, which is immaculately white. They don't all come in white, they come in the beige color as well. And you get the power supply cable, and again, all you do is you get your cassette lead here. Okay, and that was really it. You know, again, opening this up on a Christmas day, I would be very happy with this machine. And again, it's a lovely machine to look at. So if we look at the machine on its own, okay, you have a very robust case. Okay, these are easily upgraded to 64K that were used in the later models. We have a reset key, an RF, you have your joystick, your tape, and your second joystick port here, so they're all along here, very neat, with an IO or expansion port here. Okay, on the back, the strangest D-type power supply connector you will ever see, and then you have an on-off button and a monitor button, which is composite, so it's quite alright on a lot of modern-ish TVs. On the other side, you just have a cartridge port, and it's very similar to the way the Coco or the Color Computer was set up. So again, very similar traits to the original Color Computer. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just have a quick look. As I said, this is an overview video of this model because it's coming up to 40 years old. It's 40 years old, this machine, and I don't use it as often as I should do. So let's have a quick look. So as you can see, this Dragon 32 is in very good condition, and it's a very good example of its day. The screen is vibrant, the colors are really good, and it's a nice machine, but it only works, even under composite, with a few models of TV, because some of them don't even recognize that there's even a signal coming from a Dragon 32, and they won't display anything at all. But when you do find a television set or a monitor or something that can, you know, use a composite input to display what is the output of a Dragon 32, you'll find that it's actually quite pleasing. The colours, as I said, are very different. They're very bright. They're kind of garish, as you can see by this palette. This is the chess program that comes with the family computer pack for the Dragon 32 from Dragon Data Limited, and it was one of the later models of the packaging for the Dragon computer. So as we have a close-up at the screen here, you can see how nice it looks under composite when you do find a TV that works. This is a Sony television, and it seems to work with this machine very nicely. But again, you can see the difference in sizes of screen that people were actually thinking of when these machines were built, because this Bravia LCD TV would not have a chance of sitting on the top of this Dragon 32. But in saying that, everything was a lot smaller back then. Monitors tended to be about 14-inch on average, so this would have been huge back in the day. Okay, so that's the look at the Dragon 32. 40 years on. This machine has been around in the community for 4 decades, and as I said during the video, I believe it was a bit of a machine without a place at times, because it was launched into a market that was so hectic and so full of new micros, and also the established micro community such as the 64, the Spectrums and so on. And the BBC stole a lot of its marketplace because the BBC was the kind of fully professional educational go-to machine. Now that's not saying that this Dragon wasn't good, because it was a fantastic machine. It was misplaced a little bit because it was more of a industrial workhorse machine than a games machine. I believe that it was good at doing games, but the color palette kind of took the edge off of it, and the fact that it didn't have a lowercase character set really kind of hobbled it a little bit on both sides of the coin, whether it's for games or educational market or even business market. Now you could get an upgrade to make it do lowercase, which was fine, or you could do it in software, which would slow the machine down a little bit, but you know, it was perfectly doable. And you know, I think a lot of people got around it in software and made it work. Now to me, the Dragon 32 was a machine I wanted when I was a kid, simply because of the way it looked, the way the keyboard felt, and it looked and felt a very nice machine. But you know, as with all things, you know, you can't have everything, and it took me a little while to get hold of one of these, and the kind of rush on the initial software and the initial gloss on the machine had kind of passed by the time I got one, but it still didn't make it a bad machine. It was a good machine, and it was very enjoyable to use. Now the Dragon 32 was a little bit of a missed opportunity. It should have linked up with the Tandy TRS80, and it should have kind of combined the efforts on the software, and it would have been a much bigger hit. I mean, at the end of the day, both machines were so similar. Coding for each other's platform for games was a very simple affair to do the conversion for each machine, so it kind of lost out. It could have had massive worldwide success for software houses and also for sales, because you could have been able to choose a Dragon or a Coco. And out of the two, I kind of think the Dragon 32 was possibly the better built machine. But that's opinion. I like the Color Computer. I've got a couple and I think they're brilliant. I've got a TRS80 Model 1 up there. It just shows you how much I actually like them. But the Dragon 32 was a middle ground machine which didn't quite work out really. It didn't quite get the foothold that everybody's expecting it to. But then again, the market was flooded. Now, if you get a chance to get hold of a Dragon 32, I'd highly recommend it because they are great machines. There's plenty of software out for them. There's plenty of games. And the fact you can have a cartridge for software makes it a lot more convenient. And the cartridges themselves do not seem to have the same hang-ups or unreliability issues as the VIC-20 do, because the VIC-20 seem to be kind of failing in places now where every one of these I've tried works 100%. So they seem to be fairly robust and reliable. So yeah, that's an overview of the Dragon 32. The next couple of videos on this machine are going to be a repairing of one, basically making it work, because I have a Dragon with quite a few display issues, and we're going to see how that was fixed. But also we're going to look at how the company fared, how they were designed, where they came from, and a more in-depth view of the technical specifications and how they were made and manufactured. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and look forward to some more videos on the Dragon 32 very shortly in the future. So please subscribe and I'll see you soon. Thank you.